Y'all pop over here and talk to me. I hate talking to myself. Somebody big must be live. Who's live besides me? Let's see what I can get this thing to do. Oh, let's see what's cool today. There's my bubbles. Hey, I like that. The UFO people are coming. Come on, guys, where are you? Hello, guys. Everybody get in here. It's been a while since anybody had a new theory. Hey, Tennessee Rose, how are you? Somebody else must be live. Because usually I've got a pretty good crowd within 2 minutes. Maybe I'll get over here. Hey, Louise. Hey, Crystal. Oh, yeah, my barnyard animals. But them things are going to cost me $23 a month if I decide to keep them. So I've not made up my mind if I'm going to keep the animals or not. I probably will. They are cute, though. Yes, I'm getting over being sick. I went back to the doctor again today. He said it's an ulcer, like a really bad ulcer in my stomach. So, well, guys, we know that there's something about that milk that nobody wants to talk about. And if you notice, those are not clear milk jugs. They are the white milk jugs. And if you look, they have indentions in them. There is an indention where Summer's head is laying, and there is also an indention in the other side. You can't really tell whether it's the seal's been broken or what, but it could have been filled up even with a syringe. But Utah has got like this 26-page study out about, yeah, let me see if I can turn up my volume. I will try. All right, I'll just try to be a little louder. So anyway, Utah has like this 26-page report out. And the cartels are getting it from Mexico into Arizona, and then to the dealers into Utah, and then vice versa. And they're doing it by way of milk jugs, and then they're putting kids in the car and they're strapping cash to them. Well, it can be done either with milk and then you boil the milk down off of it, or it can just be pure liquid meth. So then I started pulling up states. The Border Patrol in Texas, they've been pulling out milk jugs left and right with kids. Tennessee has had a couple. And then I got to thinking, what if the milk jugs was a signal to somebody to start the transaction, like the picture being put out there? Grandis had that truck packed. There was stuff on the side. There was stuff in the truck bed. She was ready to go somewhere. We can all agree on that. So, where was she going? Where? There's still one picture that I seen in the beginning that I cannot find. And there was a couple of bags on their dining room table, and one of them looked like an EMT bag, like a airway bag. And one of them looked like a bag of clothes packed. I wish I could find that picture again. But Grandis was ready to go somewhere. That truck was packed down. It was packed down with containers. It was packed down with boxes. She already had her arts and crafts supposedly in the truck. So all they would have had to do was stash Summer somewhere until Grandis got ready to leave, and then bam, on the road they went. And if they put hair coloring on that child, or if they put a wig on that child, even if they're stopped by police, the chances of her being identified, especially with a COVID mask on, is low. But that's the only thing I can think of with that milk. And then finding out now that they can put it out in liquid form like that, in a solid. And wouldn't you know, it just so happens that Utah is the #1 state. And they named off the worst cities for it to be happening in. And it's right there where, exactly, she's asleep on those jugs too, if there was something in it. I don't know. All I know is Robin supposedly went to Hawaii. And that's another thing that's going ding, ding, ding in my mind, because somebody said that they found Jose in the Philippines. The Philippine Islands is just right over there in the Pacific. And that SDA church is tied directly to the Philippines. Well, Crystal, did you see the video that I put up where the car is just a total rust bucket now? That brand new car has rust all the way up the side of the doors, up the door frames. And I have thought many a times about that car going into the water at Warriors Park. If they were at Warriors Park. . if they were at Warriors Park. Did y'all know that there was a water park on the Virginia side, just right across the other side of that dam? You know where she said that she had took them in the very beginning to Fort Henry Dam, and then she changed her story and she said that it was the horse pond. Well, right on the other side of Fort Henry Dam is like a water park on the Virginia side that I found. No, I don't pay attention to that guy because that JTC or on game or whatever. I feel like he's there for a distraction because he popped up with the same bunch as the church when Timmy Etherton started coming on YouTube under David Dotson and Robin Lane. He popped up with all of that bunch. He has stated that Robin's house is over in Chattanooga and in Hickson, and it's not. The neighborhood that he shows is not even the correct neighborhood for Robin Lane. So after I seen that he was not even putting out the right information about who she was, I just quit watching him. Yeah, I've known that about Hunter for a while now. I seen it somewhere 3 or 4 months ago about what he had done. Well, just look up what is liquid meth and how it does not solidify until you boil it back to its original state, and they put it in that state for travel. And then the kid is put in the car and the cash is strapped to them to distract, and hopefully the police doesn't search the child and the cash is never found. So could somebody, my point is could somebody still be using her as a mule from state to state to state, and she's just constantly in that car seat with cash strapped to her while they run drugs? And I mean, it's really a better scenario than being trafficked, but still, it's wrong. One baby in Colorado had $700,000 strapped to him, and another one had $165,000 strapped to him. I know that the chances are low that she's still even with us, but when that picture was taken, I just don't think that she was gone yet. Okay, if they liquefy fentanyl, it could even be that. Because we know that they're running a trap house there. But let me run something else by y'all. Y'all know I look into everything, right? And I looked into everything, even environmental. What if something happened and it happened so quick and it was maybe even out of the adult's control that was there? But she shouldn't have had her there swimming anyway. But the problem with my theory on this is we've got to have a body to prove my theory. Well, listen to this real quick. The ammunitions plant that is sitting right there on the Holston River, they dumped so much RDX in that water right there that it started poisoning the environment and poisoning the fish, and it started seeping into people's wells around there, into their well water. They only had until like July of 2020 to get it all cleaned up. Well, there's no way to get that out of the ground and out of the wells and everything. Then, in January and then in April, another plant spilled off 5,000 gallons of ethylene glycol into that water. Now, where she was swimming at, you know, those chemicals are going to wash up on that land, on that beachy area and stuff. And if anybody has ever watched a dog being poisoned by antifreeze, that's what ethylene glycol is. If she went underwater and she swallowed 2 or 3 gulps of that water, it would have set in the shakes, cold chills, fever, and death. And it probably would have happened really quick. Now, the reason I don't go along with the water was too cold that day is because they had 2 other places on that same river, 2 little water parks that was open that same day with kids in the water. And none of those kids died with hypothermia. But where she was swimming, nobody, they even, if you look on the internet, it tells you do not eat the fish out of this water. Do not eat the fish. Throw them back if you're fishing. So what if it was something like that and it happened so fast and it scared Candace so bad that she just ditched the body somewhere instead of doing the right thing? I've not done a video on the environmental water situation yet. And when I read that, and I read about all that RDX being soaked up into people's well waters and stuff, I thought about Jody Sue talking about how Summer's bottle would be cloudy well water mixed with oatmeal. I'm going to. I just was, I went ahead and put out this one first. But without a body, they can't prove that that happened. That is just a hypothetical. That's just a what if. I mean, Candace would actually have to say, yes, something like that happened, and then tell us where her body was at. Right, right. But that's how bad the environmental water was in that horse pond. 5,000 gallons of basic, pretty much raw antifreeze being poured into that water like 7 weeks before that. I mean, it's just a thought. There's something about that whole situation that's not making sense to me with H's dad. And now finding out that Jose is in the Philippines when the SDA church is connected directly to the Philippines. You know, that guy that killed all those people that Don told Molly and them to look up and watch that video on that guy that was living in the jungle, and he run back and got a radio and got saved by the church and everything, that whole story. That happened in the Philippines. And they have a big ass church in the Philippines. And they've got a whole lot of land in the Philippines. So to find out that's where Jose went, that's a little. Right? You know, Tennessee used to be. I used to live in Tennessee. And it used to be peaceful. It used to be quiet. It used to be country. Everybody was friendly to each other. You waved at one another when you went down the road. You spoke to each other when you went into restaurants. Quaint would be the word that I would have described Tennessee 20, 25 years ago. Quaint little towns. I am not accustomed to seeing this kind of activity in Tennessee, and it makes me sad to see that the people have done this and are living this way in Tennessee. It's terrible. Nashville is totally, I'm 2.5 hours from Nashville. Nashville's totally different from East Tennessee. It's like a whole country by itself. When I have to fly somewhere, that's where I fly out of, is Nashville. That's the airport that I use. So, what do y'all think about this? Do y'all think that there's something about the milk jugs that they're not telling, and that it could possibly be drugs in the milk jug? Cash strapped to her because she looks so much bigger in that picture to me. And I think we've all agreed that she kind of looks like a different child in that picture because she's so bulky and even her legs look bigger. So I'm wondering if they've got cash strapped to her just all over. Huh. So that's kind of what I've been researching and looking into the past couple of days since I've been sick and playing with barnyard animals. I know Harmony's case is starting to mirror Summer's case too. And let me tell y'all this, I'm going to put this out there. Ziggy posted a picture a while ago, and I'm not talking about anybody. Or it might have been, no, it might have been What Big Eyes, not Ziggy. Anyway, one of the two of them posted a picture a while ago of the cabin that Jody Sue wants. Well, let me tell y'all something. That's like a $30,000 or $40,000 cabin. So y'all go right ahead and send her all that cash because she's not gonna admit to getting 3,000 at Doug's and 3,000 at Tiffany's and 3,000 at Ziggy's and 3,000 at this one. If y'all want to pay off her house, buy her a new log cabin and some land, y'all go right ahead and send your cash. But in the end, when y'all find out that she is tied up with this somehow, you have bought a criminal a house and land when yours is probably not paid for yourself. I looked up the price of that cabin. The basic package was $42,000. And I know that my house isn't paid for yet, and I'm guessing most of y'all's aren't either. So why in the world would we pay for somebody else's? And you think about it, she keeps saying, well, if something happens to me and I die, then the kids will have this. No, what she's saying is when my ass goes to prison, then my kids will have this. Well, it's not my responsibility that because you're tied up in this mess. You should have worried about this before y'all done whatever y'all done. Yeah, I done a pendulum reading on Summer about a week ago, and it wasn't too good. But I don't usually, there's not a lot of people that, believes in stuff like that, so I don't normally put that out on my channel. But I did get a reading on Michael Vaughn, and he's still in his physical body. But I am not going to pay for somebody's house that is a number one suspect or a number two suspect on the list. They're up there pretty high. Because I still think no matter what happened, no matter what happened, Jody Sue and Andy had that child at their house until the police left that night. And then she was either took out of the Beach Creek area or whatever, or wherever she's at. And I've always felt that way. I have always felt like the address 125 was one of the last places that she was at. Yes, she did, and so did that little girl say it, and that's why it's still up on my channel. I don't care how many ways to Sunday she tries to twist it. And I sent the link to the TBI exactly how she said it. It was her words, not mine. But I am not going to send because I know she got $3,200 from Doug's the other day. So now she's moved on to whoever. I don't even remember where I seen the post. And what's funny is she started collecting this money the day whoever released Chris released the uncut version in his Patreon the night before. The next morning, somebody had cut it and put it on YouTube. And then by that night, she was on YouTube begging for money, and her health was so bad that if she died, her kids was going to need land and a place to live. Now, what she meant to say was, if her butt ends up in jail, thank you, Broken Dishes. I appreciate that so much. They'll help me pay for my new barnyard animals. That way I can keep the pig. Yep. Hey, Gigi. But just like with that other group that was protesting down there, people will keep sending that money. I don't know why, but people will keep sending. I don't understand. And the morning that they released the video of Robin's little girl, one of them was on there complaining because nobody had bought her the iPhone off the Amazon wish list. Hey, Dakota. And I think whoever bought the spy pen for them off of Amazon ought to feel bad about what they used it for. That's the only reason I've done those videos about that certain person, was to show her how it felt for somebody to clip and record and clip and record. I don't doubt that. I believe that video 100%, where he says, I was in the Smoky Mountains, I was in Tennessee this past weekend, and then 30 minutes later, the whole video was down. So, and I've seen it multiple times on different people's channels. Better yet, did y'all hear the slip up in that little Lena's case? The media made a slip up and said that those bones that was found over in that park that they thought were hers, that turned out not to be hers. At first they said it was plastic bones, and then they said, oh, no, the media or the medical examiner will examine them further. And I thought, plastic bones? Wasn't plastic bones found over in Knoxville when that was supposed to be summer behind the liquor store? Well, I think that little camp over on that ridge is probably where the KKK was meeting at. I was working on that video. I think that's where the KKK was meeting at, and that's why Jody Sue was so dead set on buying that piece of land. Thank you. Absolutely. And I think that's why she was dead set on that useless piece of land. If it was so useless and it had absolutely no purpose, why did she want it so bad? Why was she down there making cash offers? And see, that's something else that people are forgetting. She had enough money to go down there to make cash offers on land. She had cash money to spend $1,850 on a sunflower tattoo on her upper arm. So tell me again, tell me one more time, why are we sending money again? Yeah, I can turn it on something else. I understand because I have seizures too, so I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to make you dizzy or sick. And there is some reason why she won't open her own YouTube page and her own PayPal account and her own Venmo. There's a reason she won't link herself to this money, but she is ever so willing to link her son to whatever scam she's running. Why will she not link her own self to this money she's asking for? Exactly, Gigi. Somebody said the other day, y'all need to quit doxing her. I've not doxed her. When she come on YouTube, she told everybody who she was. Right? And I did not put up their criminal records until the day before. It was the day before. Chris done let the video out where he says Andy. So the day before I released the criminal records. Well, there's a lot of people on Ben Hill Road that's cashing out. And there's people in other states that's connected to these people too. That's opened up YouTube channels that's cashing in big time. Exactly. Like Jose is in the Philippines now. I just, that blows my mind. Well, with that big link there to the Philippines with the SDA church. And how would he get to the Philippines? Come on now. Let's get real. And I'm not done digging into that yet. But I do know that I have located airfields all over everywhere connected to the SDA church. They own a lot of their own airfields. I don't know a animal psychic. But y'all remember the video that Jody Sue put up where she's cussing at Candace about the last time she seen Summer? And the last time I seen Summer, she was standing in the shower, naked as a jaybird, as naked as the day is long, being a brat, screaming for a towel. Y'all remember that? Go play that back and listen to it real close. And she said, and Josie was talking to Don, talking about, and my dogs were right, and my dogs were the key. Well, wait a minute. Did you see Summer after she come up gone, and your dogs were the key? Because why were y'all talking about Summer and the way your dogs were the key while she was still standing there getting out of the shower? Y'all go back and listen to that video real close about what she says. Go back and pull it up and listen to it really close. But at that moment that she's talking about her dogs being the key, and Josie talking to Don about her dogs being the key, that was supposedly the last conversation she had with them while Summer was still standing here screaming for a towel. Remember? Good night, Gigi. Thank you. So as soon as we get off of here, I want y'all to go pull up that video and listen to it and listen to what she says real close. Because Summer's still standing here screaming for a towel. But yet you're over here talking to Josie and Don about how your dogs were right and your dogs were the key to the whole thing. Well, wait a minute, because Summer's still standing here screaming for a towel, supposedly, allegedly. Jody Sue is talking to everybody on YouTube, and she thinks in her opioid soaked mind that she is going to remember something, that something is going to set off something. But she is reward hunting. She wants that reward. And she's trying to figure out a way to get it without implicating herself. She's trying to find a way to remove herself from the situation to collect that reward. And I am trying to find a link between Alice Dobbs, which is Jackie Dobbs' wife, and some of that bunch in Florida, and possibly back to the SDA church. He owns land right up in Kentucky, and as I've talked before, all these states are just right there in that one corner together, and they come down and they kind of meet. And so that goes back to, well, why was Jody Sue and Andy riding around? Now, this man has supposedly left the property because the police has told him to. He supposedly leaves the property, and they go and they're trying to hunt him down to find out what hotel he's staying in, from hotel to hotel to hotel. What concern of it was it to her where he was at after he left that property, so long as he was not on her property? Remember? All she wanted was him off her property. Which, by the way, was his. And she had marked all those ley lines wrong. Because you go back to those videos that she first released, and she says, and I owe Jackie Dobbs an apology. And that's because he was on his own property. But anyway, but why would they care enough to go hunt him down? So they could say, well, I know he was here, or I know he wasn't here. And then she says, and then we went and looked in every nook and cranny throughout these hollers, anywhere he could hide. Why? Because at this point, all he has done is supposedly trespassed on your property, which was really his. But nonetheless, at that point, the only thing he was asked to do was leave that property. So why are you hunting him down? Oh, yeah, because one of these main players is going to trip and fall. Bet money on it. I'll put a $500 bingo card on it. I don't believe a word that Dawn has said on YouTube to anybody. I don't believe a word that Candace has said on YouTube to anybody. And they have even told different stories to TBI. And they just keep changing the narrative, changing the narrative. And that's what's going to trip them up. That the changing the stories and changing the narratives. That's what's going to get them right there. I think it is too, Louise. That one that I just posted in Colorado, where they had the milk jugs filled up with the liquid meth and they had $165,000 in cash strapped to the little boy. Um, there was a trucking company involved in some of the transactions, and some of the drivers had no idea what they were hauling or when they was hauling it. And what have we found just right? Billy Dishner and his truck driving school. And it just so happens to be sitting on old Wells property, and it's got a Wells graveyard in it. And old man Billy, that used to fight with his wife and come down and stay in the shed, supposedly owns little bits and pieces of Don's land that he has sold off to him. But the case that I was reading about in Colorado mirrored, again, it mirrored this case a lot. Well, I don't know if y'all bothered watching the little short video that I done on Andrea Gonzalez. And the reason I posted on Andrea was because back in 1993, that happened in my little hometown. And that was the first case that ever rattled my nerves. That was, we searched for that little girl. They said that they had shaved her head, the week before because it was a punishment, because she wouldn't let them brush her hair and all this other stuff. But at the end, because they couldn't find a body, even though Kim admitted to scalding her to death, all they could put them in prison for was child abuse. Kim spent 3 years in prison while Paul spent 2 years in prison. So, in total, for this 5-year-old's life, they got 5 years total between them. So, child abuse charges is not enough. Child neglect charges is not enough. So, stop asking the TBI for child neglect and child abuse charges because that is not justice. I have seen justice tried to be served that way. And I have seen those people try to integrate back into the community and the community not accept those people back because they only did 2 years in the penitentiary. And we all knew what he done to his child. And it was unacceptable what they done to her. But 5 years between the two of them, that was not justice. We still, to this day, don't know where Andrea is at, and it has been 33 years, or should be 33 years old. It's been 30 years, right at 30 years. And that was my very first case, and it was just like Summers. Down, I mean, identical. The drugs involved, they said there was drugs all over that house the night before. That there was just pills laying out everywhere. The Department of Human Resources, DCFS being involved. I mean, the whole case just looked like Summers' case. But the child abuse charges just wasn't enough. That was just not justice. And every once in a while, every 4 or 5 years, people will get together and we'll go out there and look. And still no Andrea. So I was in paramedic school when that happened. And so I was real young myself too because I was volunteering on the rescue squad. And I tell you, it was a terrible feeling because we all felt like failures because we could not bring that baby home. We searched up and down mountainous areas. We searched up and down creek banks. We searched the houses that her daddy was working on. They tore the basements and stuff out of them. He built houses for a living. And they actually went to the construction sites and they tore the flooring and everything out and the walls out trying to find this kid and just couldn't find her. But we all just felt like we failed her. And maybe that's why I'm just so dead set on one way or another bringing Summer home. It doesn't matter how we bring her home as long as we bring her home, because I've drew a bad hand of cards on a case like this before. All right, Broken Dishes. Thank you so much for my super chat. Prayers. Good night. And part of me, it's just like with Summer, that thinks that maybe Andrea's still out there somewhere. Because we had an influx that year. That's when Tyson come to the area and all the chicken plants come to the area. and we had an influx of migrants come in that year. And I thought, well, maybe she was sent out, maybe she was trafficked and sent out of the country. Doubtful, because Kim admitted to killing her. So, I don't. But in the back of my mind somewhere, I guess that's how I reason with it is, well, maybe she's still out there somewhere. So, the point I'm trying to make is child abuse charges is not good enough. Child neglect charges is not enough. Whoever done this, justice needs to be served. And there's just no way that I would settle or want to settle for child neglect or child abuse charges. So I'm positive that that's what they're holding out on, is they're holding out for bigger and better charges. The very first little boy that ever showed up on a milk carton back in 1983, his last name was Ghosh. Can't remember his first name. They made an arrest today. They arrested 2 individuals for his disappearance back in 1983. So after all these years, he's still not been found, but they have found enough evidence to arrest 2 individuals on that. And he was the very first little boy. I don't do cards. I do the pendulum and dowsing rods is all I can do. I'm sure I probably could. I've just never put the energy into learning it. I'll do one and put it up because I've got to be standing up and steady so my hands don't wobble and everything, and I'm like sitting in the bed right now, but I'll put a video up of doing the pendulum. I just, I hate putting something out there, knowing that the answer is going to come back that she's probably not in her physical body, because that's all I've ever got from her. But Michael, on the other hand, I have got that he is still in his physical body, and that he's not in Idaho, that he is up north. And that's what I've got on Michael so far. I don't know if Grandma was actually supposed to take Summer or not. Especially living right there on the same property with Don and Candace, what difference would it make? Um, Back in the very beginning of this case, there was a little girl that was spotted in Louisiana that looked a lot like Summer. And it was close to a border town, actually. And I really thought that that could have been Summer. And there was a person connected to her Facebook page that had an address down in that area. It looked a whole lot like Summer. And I got a lot of energy from that. But the TBI, I guess, didn't find it credible enough to go check it out. I don't know. I think that that was probably the only opportunity that we had to get her back, and we missed it. I have looked at her hands. A lot of people get a lot of different things off of readings for Summer, and the reason I think that that is my theory on why so many people get a different feeling about whether she's in her physical body or whether she's not. A 5-year old can forget easily, their memories fade quickly. And if they have been drugged or anything like that on top of that, she may be going in and out of being herself and losing a part of herself if she is still in her physical body. And it may be a transition of just losing a part of oneself in that situation. Because I have got different readings from her at different times throughout this. And I thought, well, maybe she's being drugged, so she's just in and out of consciousness. And then I thought, well, maybe at her young age, as she's building new memories, she's also forgetting, so she's losing part of herself, part of who she was, good or bad. But you know, as many spirits as we've woke up to go check on her and to this and that, you know that they've got to be tired of going. I think I've seen more readings on Summer than I have anybody. And that little Lena, for the life of me, let me tell y'all, that little girl looks familiar. Like we have seen those pictures before. We've seen her before somehow, somewhere. She looks very familiar. Like those may even be generic pictures of, I don't know. But those parents are not telling the truth. Those parents are not telling the truth. Well, I'd have a lot of people. See, my channel was Conjuring Appalachia before I turned it into Valkyrie's Corner. And it was about our Appalachian ways and a lot of our rituals and stuff. But if I would put something up, somebody else would come over here and take what I put up and say, well, this is what I got. This was my reading. You know, this was. I'm like, no, you didn't. You just got that off my channel 5 minutes ago. So I just quit. I just quit putting it up altogether. I have not done a reading for Harmony. And the reason being, I've just been too sick. I've not felt good. Well, I don't know about that swimming hole, that particular one, but I know at some time or another, since they've had that car, it has been completely submerged in water all the way up to the windows. It went into the water at some point. I don't know if it has anything to do with summer or not. But I've got a video up of all the rust on that car when you get right up on it. And that's supposed to be a brand new car. And I mean, it's full of rust. Thank you, Grammy. Now, I do it just hoping that I can make a difference to one person. And maybe one parent won't have to feel what I felt when I lost my son. But what I'm finding is that more times than not, the parents are the aggressors and the transgressors. And that's terrible. I just don't understand what this world is coming to. Well, that video I just put out on my theory, did you not see the different colored bottles sitting there that had the different colors in it? One of them was actually orange that had the liquid meth in it. I love y'all too. Well, if you got any questions about any of my tattoos, I'll be glad to explain them to you. I don't have any Pied Pipers or any magical, uh, what you call it, Viking things or pagan things. Well, no, I take that back. On my finger, where I used to be married, I've got like the Celtic twisted band on my finger. And it's just a puzzle ring. I got a half of a feather, and my daughter has the other half. So when you put our um, hands together, it makes the whole feather. I use different kinds of sage for different things. I've got white sage and black sage and blue sage and the red dragon's blood, and I use sage different colors for different things. It depends on what I'm doing. Hey, not that Jenna. So, how did y'all all like the barnyard animals? So, do we want to keep those, or do we put those back? Or I'm feeling better, Jenna. So, stomach ulcer. They are kind of cute, aren't they? That cow lines right up with Molly's lips, too. I just wanted her to see what it was like, which it probably didn't bother her any, but just because it's what she done to that little girl. I don't care for Robin. I think there's something real fishy about Robin. I think she's just as suspect as any of them. But I don't think that little girl's done a darn thing. Medium Mama, I'll tell you what, from the very beginning of this thing, I kept, and I still say it, and I will stand by this. Don has got an underground bunker on that property somewhere, something that goes underground. And it's not the well, it's something that's been man made dug that I see, and I have seen it since the very beginning. And I don't know if that's where she's at or not, but I do know that there is a bunker on that property or another basement. One, from where his shed is at on the bottom, where the creek is at, all the way to where the 165 address is at, or 168 address, where Fred Hill lives. Anyway, all that property that belongs to Don, that used to be 3 separate lots. And it was all, according to the deeds, it was all absorbed into one address. Right? Are y'all with me? So, back in the day, all these old people, they all had root cellars, or they had um, some sort of shelter to get into, at least for a tornado, or to keep their canned goods in. Where are these things at on these other 2 properties that was absorbed into 110? Where are the basements? Where are the root cellars? They said they located all the wells, and all the wells had been searched. I know that grandmother is QAnon, or however you say it, QAnon. And that goes back to that little prank phone call that Candace done with Mary. And Mary says, "Well, is your mom there?" And Candace says something about Storm